Well, it's that time of year where everything's orange. So, my first video I ever put up on the channel was on how to bait bears, but I figured I wasn't too comfortable in front of a camera at the time, and there's a few other things I wanted to mention, so I'll mention those today. I'm basically going to do a recap of that and show you guys the process here. So, I'll show you what we have, and then I'll show you how we use it. I've already got my two bears for the year. I got them in the spring, as most of you guys know, but I got a good buddy who's actually wants to use my site. So I'm going to bait it for him so I can show you guys how to do it, and then he'll come out and take over from there. And at the end of the video, I'll probably tack on some footage of from my trail cam that I had from the spring pass, so you guys just enjoy that footage as well. So we'll get started here and we'll take a look at this stuff. I essentially do about 4 different types of bait. I have what I call a smear bait. Well, and I'll show you all this in detail once we get into the site. I have a sweet bait. I have the actual bait. That's popcorn, and there's a mixture of corn and beef finisher in there. And in here is some old fish that I had left in the freezer that is going to be used as bait. And that's the stink bait. So, first things first, I'm going to spray myself down with some homemade descent spray. And I just give pretty much a spurt just around my boots, my legs, things that are going to be touching the brush. Then I take some of my sweet scent spray and I'll spray some on the ground. And I'll step in it. That way, not only am I masking my scent, but I'm also bringing a scent in that's going to attract the bears. This is not the only way to bait a bear. There's a lot of different methods of baiting bear. Some people have a lot of luck just going out and throwing stuff on the ground, and they get a bear in no time. But I've been baiting bears for a while now. It's going on 9 years. I've never failed to hunt, and I've learned and made improvements over the years. Where now it's just this setup that what I'm showing you in this video is what works the most for me, and I like to share it with you guys. Take everything with a grain of salt. Like I said, you probably have some practices that are better than what I do, but yeah, I'm here to help you out, especially if you're new at this. Great way to get started. So I'm going to bring your first bit of attention to the barrel, which is what you need for baiting bears. It's one of the main things that you're going to use. I have just a couple connections in the back here. They're just like U-joints, screwed through, and then it's strapped to the tree so it's upright like this. On the sides, there's 2 holes all the way through, and that's just so they can approach on either side. The reason why I did this instead of putting one on the front or laying the barrel down is if it's on the front, then your shooting lane is this way. What ends up happening, you end up staring at the bear's butt for a lot of it, waiting for a shot. When they approach from the side, well, the bear comes in, he's reaching in to get the food. When he reaches in, he has all his vitals exposed. You can take a nice ethical shot. I just put a hole in the top as well, and I usually just throw something on it to cover it to keep the rain out. That's just for easier to fill it up. I don't spill as much. So that's the barrel. I got a lot of holes drilled along the top of the barrel, and that's just so airflow can, as things are inside and they start to smell, it just helps spread the scent. Bears have amazing scent. Sense of smell, sorry. And they say, I don't know that the truth behind this, but they say if you had, I would believe it, but if you're eating your breakfast in the morning, a bear a kilometer away can smell it better than you can. So this is how I set up the bait barrel. Now I'll show you how I set up the bait. The first bait, which I talked about earlier, is going to be the stink bait. So we want something that's going to be high in proteins, where as it starts to rot, it breaks down, creates a lot of smell. Fish, and especially oily fish like herring or alewives or Gaspereau, that's the best I find for that kind of smell. Now, bears, despite popular belief, don't actually like to eat rotten food. but the smell intrigues them. So it will help bring them in. But if you got rotten meat, you throw it down at your bait site. If a bear does eat it, they are omnivores and they will get sick. They can get sick from eating rotten meat, just the same as any of us. So I'm just going to put gloves on. Not because I'm a sissy, but I've got to go do another bear blind after this. I don't want to be smelling like fish if I can help it. The fish, we're just going to give it a good squeeze, get some of the guts out of it. Like that. There we go. That'll get real fresh real quick. Now, I will use a bit of a stink bait as well. Just kind of smear it around, but up high if I can. Just a little tip as well. The smaller the food, the better it is, because the bears have to stay in the area. If you have a big chunk of something, bears like to grab food and run from where they find it. They like to run off 50 to 100 yards, sit down and eat it, and then they'll kind of return sometimes. But if you want to keep them in the area so you have a good amount of time to take a good ethical shot or make your decision whether you want the bear or not, smaller food is better. So if you're going to use fish or meat or so that, I recommend chopping it up in small pieces so they just can't take off with it. Now what I'm going to do, take my knife, put a whole bunch of holes all over this, and just so air can flow through a bit, and if it rains it'll drain out, and that'll help spread the scent in the air. And we're going to place it up nice and high in a tree. You can use a rope, throw it up, bring it up that way. I actually have a tree here that was tipped over. I'll tie it to the top and then lift the tree up. It's a tall tree, but it's very small diameter on it. So I'll go ahead and do that. Now I'll just tie this little tree onto the big tree. So the camera was off, but basically all I did was open this stuff up and start mixing it. In the small container I had a bit of shortening, and in here I had molasses, and I put the shortening in with the molasses, and I'm just mixing it up now just by hand, and I'll show you what I'm going to do with that. And then I have some suet right here. Here's the general rule, guys. If it intrigues a human, it intrigues a bear, most definitely. This suet, it's just, you know, seeds and fat. Oh, I want to take a bite out of it. I haven't, but it intrigues me, so it's definitely going to intrigue a bear. So this is the smear bait, what we're doing here now. So the shortening and the molasses now, I'm just mixing it up by hand, and I end up with a consistency, still a little clumpy, real thick. What I'm going to do with this is on the inside of the barrel, right here, all along the inside, you want to smear it. So what that is for is when the bear reaches in, whoop, see that? When the bear reaches in, gets it on his fur, when they leave the site and they go back to wherever they're at, they're going to leave the scent behind. It's going to leave a scent trail, which any other bears near that pathway is going to follow back to here. Stuff like this is going to increase the amount of bears coming to your site, which is going to give you a better chance of getting a bear and a better chance of choosing that bear that you might want to get. So all around the inside of the openings that they reach into, concentrating a little more on the downward portion of it, on the bottom part, sorry, right here. And don't be afraid to smear it all over the outside. We'll take the peanut butter, the same thing, all around this area. I'm just smearing peanut butter up the trees, in around the sides of the where their arms go in to get it on their fur, all over. They like to be kept busy. This stuff is also really important because if you run out of food or you get more activity than you're expecting and you run out of food in the burrow, having stuff like this smeared around everywhere will keep them wanting to come back, because there's little treats, stuff they can lick up. If you just have just the food and you run out, they can lose interest in the site real quick and move on because they don't think there's anything left. But keeping stuff like this around just keeps them happy and entertained. Now the suet block, this is nice to use because you can just kind of grate it on the tree bark. Now you will get some increased activity of birds in the area. That's a good thing. When there's lots of birds flocking in an area, bears know that, and they know there's something going on. They like to check it out. Turns out there was holes in those gloves. So I showed you the smear bait, and I showed you the stink bait. Now I'm going to show you what I call the sweet bait or the spray bait. And I like to buy these little pump bottles, just makes things easier. And this is literally a mixture, whatever you want it to be. In this particular one, I have molasses, brown sugar, apple juice. What else do I have in there? Molasses, brown sugar, apple juice. Oh, and Kool-Aid mix. So when I smell this, it just smells like a sweet concoction. I can't really tell what's in it. I can smell a bit of the molasses. Bears' sense of smell is so good that they can determine what's in this. So they're not just smelling this, even though it smells great. I mean, oh, it's great. Well, that's really good, actually. All over the barrel. Some for the tree. Some away. Some for that tree. A little more for me. Another good way to keep them busy is just to spray it inside of an old log, broken log like this, so they can tear at it and tear it apart. So I usually spray this in about I don't know, maybe a 15-20 yard range around the site. I mean, as a human, all I can smell is this stuff right now, all over the place. It's also in my beard, but. So, the nice thing about baiting bears is that you can pre-season your meat before you get it. What I mean by that is they are omnivores and they will take on a flavor profile what they're being fed. So if you're feeding them trash and feeding them crappy food, well, it's going to affect the meat if you feed them long enough. I find, through experience, this year especially, because I baited it a little longer, beef finisher, which you can get at any like feeds and needs store kind of thing for any farm supply. It's basically a whole bunch of different grains mixed together. There's molasses in there, but it's a good quality food for them. This is what they give cows to fatten them up before they go to market and give the meat a good flavor. So you can spend a little bit. It's not that expensive, but you get a few bags of this, mix it in with popcorn. So here I just have popcorn. You can buy floor swept popcorn online, big bags of it for pretty dirt cheap. It's just stuff they sweep off the floor in factories. They can't sell for human consumption. And you can get that stuff, pop it. The bears love it. What's also nice is around this area, like any bait site, bear bait site, you need to bears love water. They got to have access to water. So all around my area, there's like a horseshoe of water. And a lot of the bears actually come in over a beaver dam. So popcorn like this will fill them up real quick. But as soon as they drink a little bit of water, they're hungry again. Keeps them close to the site. They don't venture off too far. If a bear comes and he's used to bedding down or sleeping, you know, a couple kilometers away, they'll make that trip every day to come get some food. But lots of times, if they're far away, they'll come in at night, right? By having food that like will fill them up but goes through them quick, you'll keep them closer to the area, wanting more. So I'm just gonna throw a little bit of that in there. And then in with the bee finisher and whole corn. That's what's in here. So I got whole corn mixed in with it. There. Don't be afraid to get a little bit around the area. This is why I saved a little bit of this. So for me, every time I come back in to bait, I'll come in with one 5-gallon bucket full of a mixture of bee finisher and corn, and then another one full of popcorn. That's all I do. And to keep them from eating it all at once, let me just put the top on here so the rain will get into it. Pick up logs. Start chucking them in. This serves two purposes. One, slows the bear down. They got to work around the logs to be able to get the food out. Right, so they can't one bear can't come in and just kind of eat it all at once. They have to take their time eating it. Keeps them in the area a lot longer. The other thing is deer. Deer like the stuff I threw in there as well. But if there's wood like that in the way, a deer can't get it out. So they'll give up on it. And here's another thing I like to do. Keep a container just on top like that. When a bear comes in, they like to sniff around first. Usually this is while they're here, they will knock this down. I guarantee it. But there's nothing in it. It's just an empty container, and they'll knock that out of their way. But when I come in here, I can look over from a distance, and I can tell if there was a bear here because that's been moved. Well, guys, that's how I bait bears. So I'm happy to be able to share this with you guys. And if you do the stink bait and the smear bait and the main bait along with the spray bait, you do all that stuff, you will increase your chances of getting a bear in here. I can almost guarantee you'll have activity. Just remember, bears need a water source. They love water. And in the spring, you'll find a source, but your site might dry up by the fall. So keep that in mind. Another thing I forgot to mention is for your shooting lanes to your barrel, prevailing winds. Most places have prevailing winds where 80% of the time the wind's coming from one direction. Take that in consideration when you're setting up your area. Yeah, like I said, I'm not saying that this is the only way, but if you guys have any tips or tricks for me that I can learn from that I might be able to do next spring, please feel free, leave a comment down below, and then I might be able to give it a shot. Remember, take your garbage out of the woods. because bears will run off with it and then they just scatter garbage everywhere. Nobody wants that. It's public land. It's for all of us to use, guys, so let's all take care of it, right? Something else I wanted to mention is the spray that I put on my boots earlier. That spray is not to eliminate your scent. It is to weaken it. No scent spray out there will eliminate scent completely. They all claim to, but they do not when you're talking about the caliber of a bear's nose. They just lessen the smell, which is not a bad thing, because when you come in, you kind of want to keep the same area when you're coming in to refill your bait barrel. Bears don't like surprises, but the smells on you coming in becomes part of the bait site, and they'll associate the smells with good things because they're getting treats, right? So I just spray a little bit of that on my pants and my boots. That'll just keep the scent a little bit weaker, so when the bear comes in, they think I was there a while ago and not just there. So that when I'm up in the stand with my rifle, they think the same thing. So you want to keep that kind of stuff in consideration. Well, guys, I think that's it. I don't think I have any other points to pass on to you, but if you guys have any questions for me, feel free to reach out to me on Facebook, Instagram, or even just leave a comment below, and I'll do my best to answer. And I want anybody who's interested in this, if I can help you guys get into it safely, I definitely will. So with that being said, I guess I'll leave you guys now with some footage of from my trail cams from some of the bears and that I got the spring pass. So thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate all of you guys, and I'll see you on the next one. Enjoy the videos. Peace.